He ordered the lobster. That's what she couldn't get over later. Not that he was alive. Not that he was sitting in her restaurant 5 years after she buried an empty coffin and cried tears she rehearsed in the bathroom mirror. Not even that he looked better than she remembered. Sharper jaw, broader shoulders, a calm in his eyes that wasn't there before. It was the lobster. Because the lobster was the most expensive thing on her menu. $68. Paired with a glass of her best red wine, and he ordered it the way a man orders coffee, casually, without looking at the price, without hesitation, like money was no longer something he thought about. He sat at table 7, near the window, and the candlelight caught the side of his face, the same face she had described to the insurance company as deceased, the same face she had photoshopped into a memorial poster. The same face that was supposed to be 6 feet underground in a cemetery in Queens. But there he was, alive, eating lobster, in her restaurant, at her best table, and he was smiling, not at her, not at anyone, just smiling. The quiet smile of a man who had waited 5 years for this exact moment and was savoring every second of it like the wine in his glass. She was standing behind the bar when she saw him. Her hands were arranging glasses on the top shelf. She turned around. She looked across the room, and her body went cold. Not cold like fear, cold like death, like the death she had invented for him, like the grave she had dug with paperwork and lies. And her fingers released the glass. It hit the floor and shattered. Every head in the restaurant turned toward the sound, except his. He didn't look up. He cut a piece of lobster. He placed it in his mouth. He chewed slowly. And he waited. If you're new here, this is Fate and Folktales, where every story carries a lesson and fate never forgets. If you believe that the truth always resurfaces, no matter how deep you bury it, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's begin. Because this story right here, this one will haunt you. To understand why a dead man was eating lobster in his wife's restaurant, you have to go back 5 years. To a marriage that looked perfect from the outside, and the woman who turned it into a crime scene. His name was Eko Ansa. He was the kind of man who built things. Not metaphorically, literally. And he owned a small construction company in the Bronx called Ansa and Sons Contracting. 4 employees, 2 trucks, a reputation for showing up on time and finishing under budget. He wasn't rich, but he was steady. The kind of steady that pays the mortgage 3 months early and still has enough left to take his wife to dinner on Fridays. Eko was quiet, not shy. Quiet. There's a difference. Shy men avoid the room. Quiet men sit in the room and listen to everything. Eko listened. He watched. He remembered. He was the man at the party who said 12 words all night, and every one of them mattered. He was born in Cape Coast, moved to New York at 19, worked construction for 7 years before starting his own company, built it with his hands, every nail, every contract, every handshake. And then he met Yaba. A Yaba Mensa was a storm wrapped in a smile. Beautiful. The kind of beautiful that made men forget what they were saying mid-sentence. Tall, sharp cheekbones, eyes that could charm or cut depending on her mood. She worked as an event coordinator for a boutique hotel in Manhattan. She was ambitious, hungry, impatient with anything that moved slower than she wanted. Eko moved slow. Yaba moved fast. For a while, the difference felt like balance. They married after 14 months of dating. Small ceremony. Eko's mother flew in from Cape Coast. Yaba's sister was the maid of honor. They moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Harlem that Eko had renovated himself. New floors, new kitchen, crown molding he carved on weekends. The first 2 years were good. Not perfect, good. Eko worked. Yaba planned events. They saved money. And they talked about opening a restaurant someday. Yaba's dream. Echo promised he would help her build it. "When the time is right," he said. "The time is never right if you wait for it," she replied. That was the first crack. Small, barely visible, but it was there. Yaba wanted more money, more speed, more now. Echo wanted to build carefully, brick by brick, the way he built everything. She saw his patience as weakness, his steadiness as stagnation, his quiet confidence as a lack of ambition. She started looking at Echo the way people look at furniture they've outgrown, still functional, but no longer fitting the room she was designing in her mind. And then she met Raymond. Raymond Porter was a financial consultant, smooth, fast-talking, an Italian suits and a penthouse apartment in Tribeca that he rented but told everyone he owned. He met Yaba at a networking event. He bought her a drink. He told her she was wasted on small men with small plans. She laughed. She should have walked away. But Yaba didn't walk away from compliments. She walked toward them. Every time. Within 3 months, Yaba and Raymond were sleeping together. Within 6 months, they were planning. Not planning a life together. Planning a crime. What happened next is the part that still makes people lose sleep. Because it wasn't a moment of passion. It wasn't a mistake. It was a blueprint. The plan was surgical. Raymond knew a man, a fixer, who specialized in making problems disappear. Not people. Problems. Paperwork problems. Identity problems. Insurance problems. For the right price? And this fixer could create a death certificate that would pass inspection. He could stage an accident scene. He could make a living man legally dead. The price was $40,000. Yaba paid it from the joint savings account, the account Echo had been building for 3 years to fund her restaurant dream. She used his dream money to pay for his death. The plan was simple. Echo drove a black Ford F-150, his work truck. Every Thursday evening, he drove from a job site in Yonkers back to Harlem. The route took him across the Willis Avenue Bridge. On a Thursday in November, the fixer arranged for the truck to be stolen from the job site parking lot while Echo was inside finishing paperwork. And the fixer's associate drove the truck to a stretch of road near the bridge and staged a single-vehicle collision. The truck went through a guardrail and into a concrete barrier. The truck was totaled. A fire was set. The scene was designed to suggest a fatal crash with a body burned beyond recognition. A death certificate was filed. Cause of death: blunt force trauma and thermal injuries from a single vehicle accident. The certificate was signed by a coroner's assistant who owed the fixer a favor. Yaba identified the remains, a closed casket, sealed. She cried at the identification. She cried at the funeral. She cried at the burial. She was very good at crying. And the insurance company paid out $1.8 million on Echo's life insurance policy, a policy Yaba had quietly upgraded 18 months earlier without telling him. She sold Ansah and Sons Contracting for $1.2 million to a competitor who had been trying to buy it for years. Total profit from Echo's death: $3 million. Within 8 months, Yaba opened her restaurant. A sleek, upscale spot in Brooklyn called Saffron. Modern African cuisine. Exposed brick. Candlelit tables. A wine list curated by a sommelier she met through Raymond. Raymond moved in with her. New apartment. Prospect Heights. 2 bedrooms. A balcony with a view of the park. Yaba posted photos on social media. The grieving widow who turned her pain into purpose, who honored her late husband's memory by building the dream they shared. In the comments poured in. So inspiring. Echo would be so proud. You're so strong. She read every comment. She liked every one. She never once felt guilty, because Yaba had convinced herself of something, a lie so clean it felt like truth. She told herself Echo was holding her back, that his death, was liberation, that she deserved the money because she had suffered through years of his slowness, his patience, his maddening refusal to rush. She had erased a man, and she had convinced herself He deserved to be erased. But Ekau Ansa was not in that truck. And this is where fate entered the room and took a seat. The evening of the staged accident, Ekau had been at the Yonkers job site. He finished his paperwork early, unusual for him. He walked to the parking lot at 6:14. His truck was gone. And he stood in the empty parking space, keys still in his pocket. He looked around, no broken glass, no signs of forced entry, just gone. He called Yaba. No answer. He called the police. They took a report. He took the train home. The next morning, he saw the news. A black Ford F-150, his plates, his registration, had crashed near the Willis Avenue Bridge. The driver was dead, burned beyond recognition. The police were investigating. Ekau's blood went cold. He sat at the kitchen table and stared at the article on his phone. His truck, his plates, his name in the report. The vehicle was registered to Ekau Ansa, 34, of Harlem. He called Yaba again. This time she answered. Yaba, something happened. My truck. Ekau? Her voice was strange, not relieved, not worried, strange, like she was hearing a sound she didn't expect, a sound that wasn't supposed to exist. My truck was stolen last night, and now they're saying someone died in it. They're saying it's me. Where are you? I'm at home. Where are you? Silence. Yaba, where are you? I'm at Raymond's. I'll be home soon. She hung up. Ekau sat at the table for a long time. His keys were on the counter. His truck was gone. His name was in a death report. And his wife was at another man's apartment at 7 in the morning. He didn't go to the police. Not yet. Something told him to wait. Something in her voice. Something in the silence between her words. He went to the job site. He talked to the security guard. The guard showed him the camera footage. At 5:47, 27 minutes before Ekau walked out, a man in a dark jacket had entered the parking lot. I used a key to unlock the truck and driven it away. A key. Not a Slim Jim. Not a hot wire. A key. Only 2 people had keys to that truck. Ekau and Yaba. He felt the floor tilt beneath him. Over the next 72 hours, Ekau became a ghost by choice. He didn't correct the death report. He didn't go to the police. He didn't confront Yaba. He watched. He watched from across the street as she stood outside their apartment building and cried into her phone, performing grief for whoever was listening. He watched her meet Raymond at a coffee shop in Tribeca. Their body language wasn't consolation. It was celebration. He watched a man in a gray coat visit Raymond's apartment, the fixer. He saw everything, and he understood everything. His wife had paid to have him killed. And the only reason he was alive was because he had finished his paperwork 27 minutes early. 27 minutes. That was the distance between his life and his death, between a man and a ghost, between a husband and a headline. Ekau withdrew $600 from an ATM, the last transaction under his name. He packed one bag. He left the apartment before Yaba returned. He took a bus to Philadelphia, then another to Baltimore, then another to Charlotte. He disappeared, not because he was afraid, because he was building something. Over the next 5 years, Ekau Ansa became someone else and then became himself again. In Charlotte, he worked construction under a different name, cash jobs, no paperwork. He saved. He learned. He studied for his contractor's license in North Carolina. He passed. When he started a new company, Coastal Line Builders, small at first, 1 truck, 1 employee, the same way he had built Ansa and Sons. But this time was different. This time he had something he didn't have before, rage. Not the kind that burns, the kind that builds, the kind that wakes you up at 4 in the morning and doesn't let you stop until every brick is in place. Coastal Line Builders grew, fast. Ekau was smarter now, harder, more strategic. He landed a contract with a hotel chain, then a hospital renovation, then a city infrastructure project. Within 3 years, Coastal Line Builders was doing $40 million in annual revenue. Within 5 years, $112 million. Eko Ansa was no longer a ghost. He was a force. But he had kept his face out of the press. No interviews, no profiles, no photos. And his company was known. His name, his new legal name, was known in the industry. But his face was not. And all that time, he had a lawyer. A very good lawyer named Fifi Owusu. And Fifi had spent 5 years doing one thing, building a case. Every document, every transaction, every dollar Yaba spent from the insurance payout, every lie she told, every forged paper, every payment to the fixer, every conversation, some recorded by investigators Fifi hired. The case was a fortress, airtight, unbreakable, ready. All Ekau had to do was walk through the door. If you're watching this and you believe that some debts take years to collect, stay with me, because the bill is about to come due, and the price is everything she has. The night Ekau chose was not random. It was a Thursday, the same day of the week she had staged his death, November, the same month. He wanted her to feel the symmetry. He wanted her to understand that this was not an accident. This was an appointment. Saffron was full, 42 seats, everyone taken. A Thursday night in Brooklyn, the restaurant was popular. Yaba had built something real with stolen money. The food was good. The atmosphere was warm. The irony was perfect. Ekau arrived at 7:15. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, Italian cut, a black overcoat, no hat. He wanted his face visible. He wanted her to see every feature, the jaw she used to touch, the eyes she used to trust, the mouth that used to say her name. He walked in alone. The hostess smiled. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" "I don't, but I'd like table 7 if it's available, near the window." Table 7 was Yaba's favorite table, and the one she kept for VIPs, the one with the best candlelight. It was available. He sat down. He removed his overcoat. He placed the cloth napkin across his lap. He opened the menu, and he waited. Yaba was behind the bar. She was arranging glasses on the top shelf, something she did every evening before the dinner rush peaked. She was wearing a fitted emerald dress, gold earrings. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She looked successful. She looked confident. She looked like a woman who had gotten away with everything. She turned around. Her eyes swept the room the way they always did, checking tables, checking servers, checking the energy. Her gaze passed over table 4, table 5, table 6, table 7. She stopped. Her hands were still raised, reaching for a glass on the top shelf. They froze. Her fingers opened, and the glass slipped. It fell. It shattered on the floor behind the bar. Red wine splashed across the white counter like a wound. Every head in the restaurant turned toward the sound, except his. Ekau didn't look up. He cut a piece of lobster. He placed it in his mouth. He chewed. He reached for his wine glass. He took a slow sip. He set it down. And then, only then, he looked up. He looked directly at her, across the restaurant, across the candles and the conversations and the 5 years of lies. He looked at her with eyes that were calm and clear and absolutely devastating. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He didn't speak. He just looked. And Yaba understood. She understood that she was not looking at a ghost. She was looking at a man who had been watching her for longer than she knew. A man who had chosen this night, a Thursday in November, for a reason. A man who had ordered her best lobster and her best wine and sat at her favorite table because he wanted her to know that he was not here by accident. He was here on purpose. And he had been waiting for this moment the way she had been running from it, with patience she could never understand. Her legs didn't buckle. Her hands didn't shake. Something worse happened. She smiled. A reflex. A performance. The same muscle memory that had carried her through the funeral and the insurance meetings and the social media posts. She smiled because smiling was how she survived, by pretending everything was fine even when the walls were falling. She walked out from behind the bar. She smoothed her dress. She crossed the restaurant, weaving between tables, stepping over the broken glass that a busboy was already sweeping. She stopped at table 7. "Welcome to Saffron," she said. Her voice was controlled, barely. "Is everything to your liking?" Ekau looked up at her. He set down his fork. He wiped his mouth with the napkin, and he spoke for the first time. "The lobster is excellent, but you already know that." He paused. "You always did have good taste, Yaba." The sound of her name in his mouth made the room go silent. Not literally. The other diners kept eating, kept talking. But in the space between Ekau and Yaba, the air went dead. Sound stopped. Time stopped. Everything stopped except the truth that was sitting at table 7 in a charcoal suit, finishing a glass of wine. Yaba's smile cracked. Just a hairline fracture. But he saw it. I'm sorry. Do I know you?" she said. "You buried me," Echo said quietly. 5 years ago. November. Closed casket. You wore a black dress with a silver brooch. Your sister read a poem. You cried 4 times during the service. I counted." Yaba's face went white beneath her brown skin, a thing you wouldn't think possible until you see it. The blood drained from her cheeks and pooled somewhere in her chest where it sat like a stone. "Ekau." She whispered it. Not a greeting. A confession. "Sit down, Yaba." "I can't. I have guests." "Sit. Down." She sat. She pulled out the chair across from him and sank into it like her bones had turned to water. Her hands were in her lap. Her gold earrings caught the candlelight. Her emerald dress, bought with his insurance money, suddenly felt like a costume. "How?" she started. I wasn't in the truck. You know that now. I finished early that night. 27 minutes early. Your man was already driving it away by the time I walked outside." Her eyes darted toward the door. Calculating. Always calculating. "Don't," Ekau said softly. "There are 2 federal agents at table 12, and 3 more outside. They've been here since 6 o'clock. Yaba's eyes moved to table 12. 2 men in blazers, eating salads, not looking at her, but present, unmistakably present. Fifi Owusu, my attorney, filed a criminal complaint with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office 14 days ago. Insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, forgery of a death certificate, filing a false police report, wire fraud. He listed the charges the way a man reads a grocery list, calm, methodical, complete. Raymond Porter was arrested this morning at 6 a.m. He's currently in federal custody. He cooperated within 40 minutes. Full confession, names, dates, amounts, including the $40,000 you paid to the fixer from our joint savings account. Yaba's chest was heaving. Her breath came in short, sharp bursts. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "The fixer, Charles Addo, was arrested in Baltimore 3 days ago. He had records, Yaba, receipts, text messages, a recording of you on the phone saying, and I'm quoting, 'I need this done before Thursday. He drives the same route every week. Make it look real.'" A tear rolled down Yaba's face. Not a performed tear, a real one. The first real tear she had cried in 5 years. "The restaurant," she choked on the word. "Oh, Saffron," was purchased with $1.8 million in fraudulently obtained life insurance proceeds. A forensic accountant has traced every dollar. The DA is seeking full asset forfeiture. The restaurant, the apartment in Prospect Heights, the savings accounts, the investment portfolio Raymond set up for you, all of it. "Ekau, please. You also sold my company, Ansa and Sons Contracting, for $1.2 million. A company I built with my hands. Every nail, every contract. My name was on that company, Yaba. My father's name. You sold it like furniture." His voice hadn't risen. Not once. The entire conversation had been conducted at the volume of a dinner date. The other diners had no idea that Table 7 was the site of a resurrection and a reckoning happening simultaneously. I thought you thought I was dead because you paid someone to make me dead. Don't finish that sentence. She closed her mouth. Ekau reached into his jacket pocket. He placed a business card on the table. It read, Coastal Line Builders, Ekau Ansa, CEO. I built a new company, 112 million in revenue last year. I tell you that not to impress you, but so you understand something. He leaned forward. The candlelight caught the sharp edge of his jaw. His eyes, those quiet, patient, devastating eyes, locked onto hers. You erased me. You took my name, my company, my savings, my life, and you erased me from the world. And I came back, not because I'm lucky, because I'm the man you should have loved instead of buried. The room was still. The candle flickered. Yaba's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her tears were falling freely now, running down her cheeks, dripping onto the white tablecloth, staining the fabric the way truth stains everything it touches. The agents at Table 12 are going to approach you when I leave, Ekau said. You will be arrested. You will be charged. Your attorney can contact Fifi Owusu for the full evidentiary file. It's 1,100 pages. He stood. He buttoned his suit jacket. He placed $300 bills on the table, far more than the lobster and wine cost. The meal was excellent, he said. You built something real here. It's a shame you built it on a grave. He picked up his overcoat. He put it on. He turned toward the door. Ekau. He stopped. He didn't turn around. I'm sorry. He stood still for 3 seconds, and the longest 3 seconds of her life. No, you're not, he said. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. He walked out. The door closed behind him. 30 seconds later, the 2 men at Table 12 stood up. They walked to Table 7. They showed Yaba their badges. Ma'am, federal agents, you need to come with us. Yaba stood. Her legs barely held her. Her emerald dress, the one she had bought to impress her guests, was now the dress she would be photographed in for her mugshot. She walked past her kitchen, past her staff, past the bar where a busboy was still sweeping up the broken glass from the wine glass she had dropped, the first domino in the last night of her freedom. She walked out the front door of Saffron for the last time, the restaurant she had built with a dead man's money, and the restaurant where the dead man had just eaten lobster. 3 months later. Ekau sat at the counter of a small diner in Harlem. Not an upscale restaurant, not a candlelit table, a diner, Formica counter, coffee in a ceramic mug, a plate of eggs and toast. Fifi Owusu sat beside him. The DA accepted the plea, Fifi said. 12 years. She'll serve 8 with good behavior. Ekau nodded. He sipped his coffee. Raymond got 7. The fixer got 9. And the restaurant? Seized. The assets are being liquidated. Between the insurance recovery, the business sale reversal, and the forfeiture, your total recovery is approximately $4.1 million. Ekau set down his coffee. He looked out the window. Harlem in the morning. The same streets he had walked when he was building Ansa and Sons. The same sidewalks. And the same bodegas. The same sky. I don't want the money, Fifi. What? Give it to the workers. The 4 guys who worked for me at Ansa and Sons. They lost their jobs when she sold the company. Set up a trust. Split it equally. Fifi stared at him. Then he smiled. Your mother raised a good man, Ekau. My mother raised a man who builds things. That's all I know how to do. He finished his eggs. He left a $20 tip on a $9 meal. He walked outside. The morning air was cold. November. The same month he died. The same month he came back. The same month the truth sat down at Table 7 and ordered lobster. He put his hands in his coat pockets and walked north, toward the job site, toward the next building, toward the next thing he would build with his own hands. And behind him, a restaurant with the lights off and a closed sign on the door. In front of him, everything. Ekau Ansa understood something that most people never learn. You can bury a man's name, you can burn his truck, you can forge his death and steal his money and build a whole new life on top of his ashes. But you cannot bury what a man is made of. Patience, purpose, the quiet refusal to stop building, even when the world tells you you're dead. Yaba tried to erase him. She used every tool she had: fraud, fire, paperwork, tears. And for 5 years, she thought it worked. But the whole time, brick by brick, contract by contract, silence by silence, he was building something she could never destroy. Because you can't kill a man who knows how to build. You can only delay him. If you want to see who fate visits next, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because in these stories, the people who dig graves for others always forget to measure one thing: the depth of the man they're trying to bury.